No sound. No sound. No, I didn't mute. Okay. He says no sound. Are you seeing your screen? Are you seeing the screen? It's like you clicked three full screen for the same video or something. Welcome back, sir.
Hey, can you check on the sound? You guys don't have no sound. There's no sound there. Check on the sound. and get and look on the look on the feedback. There's no sound. There's no sound, and look on the feedback.
Jesus. One person is sent 20 messages. No. That one is not even true. How can you get? Because when
I said you guys should look on the feedback. I'm typing messages there. There is no sound. Look on the feedback. Now, look on the feedback on the platform. You don't go live without looking on the platform.
I think this mic is in it. I think somebody, I think somebody's rebroadcasting a previous program or something. I don't know. I feel so. Why are we them? How are they hearing us? Because this place has been quiet before they said that thing, and I spoke to. Which one is hearing background noise? So which external is down? Because this place has been quiet, like cold quiet. And if you say background noise, it's just me talking. Where's that lip gloss? Chook. Still here. Smells like chewing gum. Check that Mr. Benga's own site, that place where he was streaming live from. Maybe it's from there. There. Anywhere.
by making the great sacrifices befitting a great people.
The World Draft Once More is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices. We are enough, so let's draft, and draft until we drop. Our existence as a people depends on that.
It is our turn too. Let us draft until we drop.
The Amber World Draft Award 22 is here. People, it's time to win again.
This is the time for us to draft until we drop. That must be our slogan and rallying cry now. And along the way, we should be asking ourselves some critical questions.
Are we still enjoying 3 square meals a day? While our boys on the ground lack the basic gear they need to resist the occupiers?
Are we still living a life of luxury and comfort while our brave restoration forces lack medical supplies as our front?
Are we still throwing big birthday parties while our restoration forces lack basic communication equipment to maximize their efforts?
Are we still going on cruises and expensive vacations while our IDFs on the ground go without food and logistics?
Are we still finding excuses not to make the necessary sacrifices and draft and beat while our restoration forces lack the game-changing equipment that they so desperately need to bleed the enemy?
On a daily basis, how much are we putting aside for our liberation, knowing that only through the fierce resistance are we going to liberate our beloved country?
Are we providing the federal government and the CIC the means to carry out some of the critical intelligence and other special operations across the national territory?
As we ponder these questions, we must remember that a goal that is not funded is nothing but a wish. And we must not let Amazonia down as a wish because we failed to fulfill our patriotic duties by making the great sacrifices befitting a great people.
The World Draft Once More is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices. We are enough, so let's draft, and draft until we drop. Our existence as a people depends on that.
It is our turn too. Let us draft until we drop.
Good evening and welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. Tonight, we're going to be receiving the Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Dr. Martin Mungwa. And we know every moment with him is a moment where the entire liberation movement is revived with his instrumental contributions and briefings, giving the interim government's given the interim government's position on issues and policies. Well, during the good old days, honesty was celebrated to a point whereby an honest person will see the punishment being reduced. Nowadays, that the corruption brought about the colonial regime of Paul Biya has eaten into the society, the reverse is now true. Speaking of corruption, the CDC is yet to pay the wages of thousands of our workers for 30 months now. The colonial La République du Cameroon's administration keeps a sealed lip about the plight of these southern Cameroonians. This is an exploitation tendency that must be condemned. Owing workers who solely depend on their wages as a source of livelihood is killing them and their children slowly. A lot happening, and we can wait to get into the full stories of tonight's Undaunted. Well, just after the prime headlines.
Top headlines for today, August 23rd, 2022. Let's start with the story. PSS Marcon suffers another fire attack. Also, a story, Christians use fetish to solve church problems. Is a story you will be interested in today. Colonial decree on sports infrastructure, non-event to Southern Cameroonians, Amazonia. CDC workers enter the 30th month without pay is a story you will be interested in today. And in sports, Thomas Tuchel, Chelsea boss, charged by FA for Anthony Taylor's comments. Also today, the Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Dr. Martin Mungwa, will be joining us just after the Undaunted News. Sincerest apologies for coming a bit behind schedule today. Of course, we are undaunted and we promise to make up for the time that has been lost, especially the fact that the SOS for Communications and IT, Dr. Martin Mungwa, will be coming just after the Undaunted News. I am Oni Opalan. Let's begin. Accepting responsibility of an act committed is a noble act worth applauding. During the good old days, honesty was celebrated to a point whereby a honest person will see the punishment being reduced. But in recent times, the corruption brought about the colonial regime of Paul Biya has eaten into the society. The reverse is true. In the case where an object is damaged, the person who owns up and accepts responsibility is at times forgiven for being honest and not punished. But when the perpetrator is discovered after failing to own up, the punishment would be doubled. Not just because something was destroyed, but that dishonesty has been portrayed by the perpetrator. In a crisis hit southern Cameroon's Ambazonians, acts committed are always an issue, especially when no group owns up to claim responsibility. What is this that can cause a person or group of people to commit an act and is not willing to claim responsibility? It can only be because the perpetrators might be a public figure with a hidden agenda and don't want their names to be soiled. Now, this is peculiar to the La République du Cameroon's inability to own up for the different atrocities La République du Cameroon have carried out against the people of southern Cameroon. Now, this is where we'll begin the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. Just a gentle reminder again, Then after Undaunted Briefings, we'll be having the SOS for Communications and IT, Dr. Martin MUNGWA. He's right here waiting for us. And meanwhile, I have Star Smart here. Good evening, Star.
Good evening, Oni. PSS Mancon suffers yet another arson barely days to the resumption of a new academic year. The boys' dormitory of PSS Mancon has been burnt down in the night of August 21st. 2 a.m. Monday, 22nd of August 2022, the campus of PSS Mancon is invaded by strange armed men who on arrival started shooting, moving around the campus and finally setting the dorm 5 boys dormitory on fire. As the armed men left the campus, the school authorities hurriedly informed the Colonial Army Rescue Unit, who mobilized to save the building. Well, unfortunately, the roof and walls of the building had already given away. The Army Rescue Unit prevented the fire from crossing over to other dormitories. Nobody or group of persons have claimed responsibility for this act, and this is the third time the school has come under acid attack after it was previously attacked on the 22nd and 23rd of January in 2021. The moderator of the PCC is still to issue a statement on the incident, while administrative authorities are carrying out an assessment of the damage done this far. PSS Mancon scored 100% in both the GCE ordinary and advanced level during the just ended academic year. It should be recalled also that after the Ngabor massacre, the military never claimed responsibility of that atrocity and were only proven guilty after an investigation was carried out. The Ngabor massacre took place in a village in the Savannah state of southern Cameroon on 14th February 2020 and resulted in the murder of 21 civilians, including 13 children, by Cameroonian soldiers and armed Fulani militia. Well, can this arson on PSS Mancon be a replay of the Ngabor massacre incident? Well, we can only allow time do justice to unveiling the truth.
According to the Holy Bible in Philippians chapter 2, verse 10, it says that at the name of Jesus, every knee should bow of all things in heaven and things in earth and things under the earth. A modest interpretation implies Jesus' power surpasses any other power. Therefore, any other power that is not of God is of no effect before the power that is in the name of Jesus Christ. Now, the puzzle is, while will people attempt other sources of power than the power of Jesus? Worst of all is using the African term juju to fight church matters.
Christians of PC Kumba were bewildered in the early hours of August 21st, 2022, as they got up to see the church gate sealed with fetish substances. The Presbyterian Church in Kumba, an equatorial state of southern Cameroonians, for months today been plunged into crisis as some aggrieved members call for the departure of the parish pastor and her associates. Now, this is the second time that fetish objects are being used to seal the church entrance rather. When it happened the first time some weeks back, the fetish objects were only removed by the chairman of the Kumba Traditional Council upon invitation by the parish pastor. The fetish objects consist of some dead chickens and charms. Well, I'd rather say to this, it is ironic to have a belief on Christianity having to go traditional to settle disputes or conflicts in the church. It is something that is quite outrageous, ironic, and really unbelievable. Well, we'll move on with the news right after this short break.
It is common asking what a bicycle is doing at the fuel filling station, meaning the services rendered at the filling station is not beneficial to a bicycle owner. The resources of La Republique du Cameroon are not evenly distributed. Now, there is a bias in the song, the regional balance, often sung by colonial authorities of the Biya regime. And when resources of a nation are not evenly distributed, some decisions are more or less insignificant to the people denied of the same institution those decisions are meant to protect. Any decision on the protection of sports infrastructure is useless to the people of southern Cameroon's Amazonia, especially those of the savannah and midland regions. These regions have been deprived of a football field by La Republique du Cameroon. Now, this is not the first time we are projecting this to you. Now, why is it that only the English speaking people have do not have football field? Is this not a calculated attempt by La Republique du Cameroon to disfavor Anglophones taking part in different football organized competitions?
Well, the colonial ruler of La Republique du Cameroon, Paul Biya, on Wednesday, August 17, 2022, signed a decree creating a National Sports Facilities and Equipment Development Board. This board is charged with the responsibility of ensuring the upkeep, safeguard, and the development of sports infrastructure constructed by La Republique du Cameroon. Now, this decision is coming at a time football lovers of the Southern Cameroon's region, Savannah region, and Midland region have clamored for a stadium to no avail. Where still is the lone existing Bamenda Municipal Stadium that was rendered not fit for use by La Republique du Cameroon. The project to rehabilitate the field was abandoned without any reason advanced for. The abandonment came only after the pitch was docked and rendered useless by the construction company. Football lovers in southern Cameroon see the decree of the colonial ruler, Paul Biya, as a move to protect the institutions in La Republique du Cameroon and not for southern Cameroon. The current holder of the Cup of Cameroon is a team based in Bamenda, chief town of Midland region of southern Cameroon, but paradoxically, this region is not having a football field. The lack of football field for the youths of southern Cameroon to develop their talents is increasing, killing the spirit of playing football in most talents.
It is a fundamental right for a worker to receive payment for work done. Now, this payment is normal, see, and should be regular and complete within the stipulated period. But this is not the case with the colonial state company, the CDC. The Cameroon Development Corporation (CDC) is an agro-business company and its general office are in Boter, a locality in Limbe State of southern Cameroon's Amazonia. The CDC is yet to pay the wages of thousands of our workers for 30 months now. 30 good months. The colonial La Republique du Cameroon's administration keeps a sealed lips about the plight of these southern Cameroonians. Now, this is an exploitation tendency that must be condemned, owing workers who solely depend on their wages as a source of livelihood is killing them and their children slowly. How can a company created to foster development be the one promoting underdevelopment? Is it not one of the schemes of La Republique du Cameroon to render southern Cameroonians miserable and not able to educate their children, given that school resumption is in few days?
Now, thousands of workers of the Cameroon Development Corporation, the CDC, the country's second largest employer, have entered the 30th month without pay. The disgruntled workers have now decried what they term the insensitivity of the state to their plight due to the black leg of unpaid wages and some other benefits. CDC is a company run by the colonial La Republique du Cameroon, and for 30 months, that is over a year and a lot of months extra, and counting, that is 2 years plus, and counting, is unable to pay wages of thousands of her employers. The workers are appealing to the colonial Yaoundé regime to devise a means of getting money to offset the over 2 years owed salaries, allowances, and other entitlements so as to reduce the agony and suffering they endured since 2018. These frustrated workers say children are at risk of not going to school as the academic year begins in less than 2 weeks. They equally accuse management for prioritizing contractors' bill, ignoring plight of workers. To compel the colonial government of Paul to address their worries, the unpaid workers of CDC reiterate plan to embark on an indefinite strike come September 1st, 2022.
And now sports. Thomas Tuchel, Chelsea boss, charged by the FA for Anthony Taylor's comments. Chelsea's boss Thomas Tuchel has been charged by the Football Association for his comments about referee Anthony Taylor following his side's controversial 2-2 draw with Tottenham.
Now, the German suggested Taylor should not refer Chelsea matches in future, that he should not referee Chelsea matches in future. Tuchel had previously received a one-match touchline ban and £35,000 fine for his confrontation with Spurs boss Antonio Conte at the end of the game. The 48-year-old has until Thursday, 25th August, to respond to the charge. Well, Gab Ellison has more.
Latest world sports. Football. Thomas Tuchel. Chelsea boss charged by FA for Anthony Taylor comments. Chelsea boss Thomas Tuchel has been charged by the Football Association for his comments about referee Anthony Taylor following his side's controversial 2-2 draw. The German suggested Taylor should not referee Chelsea matches in future. Tuchel had previously received a one-match touchline ban and £35,000 fine for his confrontation with Spurs boss Antonio Conte at the end of the game. The 48-year-old has until Thursday, 25th August, to respond to the charge. A statement by the FA said Tuchel's comments questioned the integrity of the match referee. It is alleged that the manager's comments in his post-match press conference constitute improper conduct as contrary to FA Rule E3.1. The statement read, "They imply bias and or question the integrity of the match referee and or bring the game into disrepute following the draw at Stamford Bridge." Video assistant referee Mike Dean admitted an error in not asking the on-field official, Taylor, to check his pitchside monitor after Spurs defender Christian Romero's hair pulled on Chelsea left-back Marc Cucurella. Play was allowed to continue instead, with Harry Kane heading a 96-minute equalizer for Spurs seconds later. Tuchel was allowed to stand on the sidelines during his side's 3-0 defeat by Leeds at Elland Road on Sunday after his ban was suspended temporarily, pending the full written reasons for the decision. Manchester United introduced Brazilian midfielder Casemiro as new signing at Old Trafford. Casemiro was introduced as a Manchester United player before the club's home game with rivals Liverpool on Monday after joining from Real Madrid. United will pay up to £70 million for the Brazil midfielder, who has signed a 4-year deal at Old Trafford. Casemiro says he is joining the biggest team in the world after bidding an emotional farewell to Real. The 30-year-old becomes one of the top earners at Old Trafford, but he says the move is not motivated by money. "If it was about money, I would have left 4 or 5 years ago," he said, after spending 9 years at the Bernabeu. "Those people who think that are wrong. They don't know me at all." The club has always treated me very well. It's my decision, my path, and following his announcement as a United player, the opportunity to start a new challenge at Manchester United and in the Premier League is extremely exciting. I have worked with many great managers in my career, and having met with Eric and heard his ideas, I can't wait to work closely with him, his staff, and my new teammates in the coming years. Tennis, US Open. Alexander Zverev out as Rafael Nadal and Cameron Norrie move up seedings. World number 2 Alexander Zverev has withdrawn from the US Open as he continues to recover from torn ankle ligaments suffered during his French Open semi-final against Rafael Nadal. Germany's Zverev, 25, was not expected to be able to play after needing surgery in early June. The 2020 US Open runner-up officially pulled out of the event on Monday. Britain's Cameron Norrie, who reached the Wimbledon semi-finals, moves up to 8th seed. It means the 26-year-old left-hander will not be able to face a higher-ranked opponent until at least the quarterfinals of the Grand Slam tournament, which starts in New York on 29 August. Spain's world number 3 Nadal, who last week lost in his only match since pulling out of Wimbledon with an abdominal injury, will be seeded second behind Russia's defending champion Daniil Medvedev. Gab Ellison reporting for Undaunted, ABC Amber News.
And with that sports report, we have come to the end of Undaunted tonight. But before we go, here is a recap of our major stories.
DSS Mankan has suffered another fire attack. Christians use fetish to solve church problem. Colonial decree on sports infrastructure, non-events to Southern Cameroonians.
Also today, we told you that CDC workers has entered 30th month without pay, and in response to Thomas Tuchel, Chelsea boss charged by the FA for Anthony Taylor's comments. And that was it for tonight on Undaunted, bringing to the news on 12 stories. On behalf of Michael, Anchor, Smart, and the entire Undaunted crew, we say thank you for tuning in. Remember to sit back and wait for Dr. Martin MUNGWA's briefing. I am Onyi Opmala. God bless you. All right, fellow Ambazonians, it's another Tuesday, and it's a day for us all to communicate with our very own SOS for communications and IT. Of course, you know what this section is all about. It's a time out for you to air your thoughts. It's a time out for you to share your opinions, and it's time for him to interact with you. It's very, very important that you have a touch with the interim government's perspective on every idea and every thought that is happening. And so Dr. Martin's weekly briefing is something that you shouldn't miss, and it is right here with us right now this evening.
And you have tonight, the title for his amazing weekly briefings is Senate Resolution 684, Ambazonians equivalent of the Balfour Declaration. Of course, as you always know, it is an inspiring moment to be with Dr. Martin MUNGWA. Every Tuesday is worth anticipating, and we have it here live and direct for you. And with us in the studio is, of course, no other than Dr. Martin MUNGWA.
Of course, Dr. Martins Mungwa will also be speaking on the Amazonian Liberation War. Will be Brigadier General Ezom Vundo Simeon succeed where others had failed woefully. Would also want to hear his thoughts and opinion on that. Remember, yesterday we tried to interact with the Speaker of the Interim House of Representatives, Dr. Winnie Lobati, and she gave her thought. And of course, we are here again to interact with Dr. Martin Mungwa, and I'm sure that you would definitely love his own opinion. Remember that the most interesting part of this show is the fact that you can call in and ask your questions directly. All right, so I'm sure that Dr. Martin Mungwa is ready for us right now. Dr. Martin Mungwa, over to you, sir.
Yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening. Yes, in a few minutes we will definitely be moving into the office of the Secretary of State for Communications and IT, Dr. Martin Mungwa. The report, maybe you want to give a recap before we move into that report that we gave yesterday. I'm sure Gab Ellison has a recording for it, but then you may want to give the whole recap so that we refresh the minds of Amazonians when it comes to the question of Ezot Mvondo Simon and the scheme of the colonial administration or forces of occupation in Amazonia. That refreshes us before Dr. Martin cues in to his message for tonight. Please, you do that very briefly, and then we'll get into his office. I think he's seated and waiting. Thank you. When you're ready for us to get that report, um, kindly let me know so that I can get the I can get it back to you.
The Amber World Draft Award 22 is here. People, it's time to win again.
This is the time for us to draft until we draft. That must be our slogan and rallying cry now. And along the way, we should be asking ourselves some critical questions.
Are we still enjoying 3 square meals a day? While our boys on the ground lack the basic gear they need to resist the occupiers?
Are we still living a life of luxury and comfort while our brave restoration forces lack medical supplies at the home front?
Are we still throwing big birthday bashes while our restoration forces lack basic communication equipment to maximize their efforts?
Are we still going on cruises and expensive vacations while our IDFs on the ground go without food and logistics?
Are we still finding excuses not to make the necessary sacrifices and drafting big while our restoration forces lack the game-changing equipment that they so desperately need to bleed the enemy?
On a daily basis, how much are we putting aside for our liberation, knowing that only through the fierce resistance are we going to liberate our beloved country?
Are we providing the federal government and the CIC the means to carry out some of the critical intelligence and other special operations across the national territory?
As we ponder these questions, we must remember that a goal that is not funded is nothing, but a wish. And we must not let Amazonia die as a wish because we failed to fulfill our patriotic duties by making the great sacrifices befitting a great people.
The World Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices. We are enough, so let's draft, draft, and draft until we drop. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It is Award 22. Let us draft until we drop.
It is Award 22. Let us draft until we drop. Undaunted was supposed to get for us a review on a report that we had yesterday, and we expected Undaunted to bring it at any time they are willing to get it. Maybe you can let us know. Right now, we are streaming directly from Washington, and indications have it that the Secretary of State for Communications and IT is well seated in his office, ready to talk to us without any waste of your time, without any waste of any one more minute. I will be transitioning into the office of the Secretary of State for Communications and IT. Just stay tuned.
Global greetings to all Ambazonians, dear Ambazonians and the international community. Welcome to today's presentation, and first a 21-gun salute to our restoration forces. We thank you and the people of Ambazonia for your selfless devotion to defend our country. Today, we are going to revisit two matters that should reassure Ambazonians that La République du Cameroon will leave Ambazonia and at a higher cost to them. There is precedence in international law to support our case, which we will discuss tonight. Our presentation is titled Senate Resolution 684, Ambazonians' Equivalence of the Balfour Declaration. Issue number one. You might want to ask, what is the Balfour Declaration? And how does this historic statement relate to Senate Resolution 684 and the people of Ambazonia? The Balfour Declaration was a single sentence of just 67 words sent on the 2nd of November 1917 in a short letter during World War I by Lord Balfour on behalf of the British government to Walter Rothschild for transmission to the Zionist Federation of Great Britain and Ireland. The Balfour Declaration announced support for the establishment of a national home for the Jewish people in Palestine, then an Ottoman region with a small minority Jewish population. The mechanism was through negotiations with the people there. In the case of Southern Cameroons, the US Senate Resolution 684 compels La République du Cameroun to sit down with the people of Southern Cameroon's Amazonia to resolve the present sovereignty conflict through international arbitration. Arbitration means calls for seasoned experts to diagnose root causes and find the sovereign solutions under international law. There is no military solution. Issue number two. La République considers losing access to Southern Cameroon's oil deposits. We are not experts in international law. The formation and dissolution of federations is subject to international law. Our view on the subject is informed by our experience of things seen in our lifetime. Three things come to mind in the Southern Cameroon's War of Independence from La République du Cameroun. First, La République du Cameroun is a founding signatory of the Organization of African Unity, which existed between 1963 and 2002, and has since become the African Union. Article 4B of the Constitutive Act of this continental organization limits member states to borders inherited at independence. Southern Cameroon was not part of La République du Cameroun on January 1st, 1960. For those who don't remember, January 1st was the day of independence of La République du Cameroun. Second, La République du Cameroun is in southern Cameroon's Ambazonia because of the vote at the United Nations on the 21st of April 1961, granting the southern Cameroon's independence by joining La République, subject to tripartite negotiations between southern Cameroons, the United Kingdom, and La République du Cameroun, culminating in a union treaty. Instead, La République moved her army to occupy our country on an alleged vote verbal from Great Britain that was not shared with Boya. There were no negotiations and no union treaty. Third, it is true that the southern Cameroons has some oil deposits. It is relatively small. Much has been extracted since the 70s. The evidence in a 2011 World Bank report, authored by two Canadians, is that the revenue from oil is being shared on a 50-50 basis between France and La République du Cameroun. It is also important for everyone to understand that petroleum is a depletable resource. On current information in the public domain, Southern Cameroon's 200 million barrels of proven crude oil reserves have a lifespan of 15 years at current production rates. What happens in the end is that the oil becomes uneconomical to produce. This means one will have to inject gas into the ground to push the oil towards producing wells. The equipment and operating costs are very expensive. There will be no economic oil after 2040 in southern Cameroon. This is the background. Back to the subject. It is clear that if La République du Cameroun is placing more relevance on limited and depletable resources in our country than on the sovereignty of Ambazonia, then she is just betraying her ambition to annex the former British Southern Cameroons in the face of international law. That objective for La République du Cameroun is a root cause of the current Southern Cameroon's Ambazonia war of independence. You may want to appreciate the fact that La République du Cameroun controls the river Senegal, which is the longest river after the Niger and the Congo rivers in our region. The hydroelectric energy potential in that river lasts forever and is more than all the oil energy in our Gulf of Guinea region. That includes the oil in Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, Southern Cameroon, and Gabon. We Ambazonians can see that La Republic's annexationist ambitions are not supported by any continental power. La Republique will ultimately be restrained by the combination of firepower and international law, however long it takes. The bipartisan U.S. Senate Resolution 684, released on January 1st, 2021, as a 61st anniversary present to La République du Cameroun, and is now the Balfour Declaration for the peoples of Southern Cameroon. The Senate resolution mandates La République du Cameroun to sit down on a round table to settle this conflict in international mediation. There are precedents in international law. In 2014, the United Kingdom Parliament granted a referendum to Scotland. We bring up this case because all UK production of petroleum, which is almost 950,000 barrels per day, is from Scottish waters of the North Sea. Production from Amazonia is under 60,000 barrels per day, or 6.5% of UK production rate. However, a mature democracy respected the wishes of the people by resolving all Scottish claims for independence peacefully. The UK deserves a peace prize for that peaceful settlement of the Scottish question. Uh, Short live the revolution, long live the Federal Republic of Ambazonia. God bless Ambazonia. Over to you, Patty.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mungwa. You just gave a glimpse of what you're supposed to speak tonight. I'm glad you hinted me earlier on the depths and the different dimensions of your discussion this evening. I'm gonna, with your permission, I enjoyed it. I knew those who usually have their pens have taken their pens and they have taken note. We're gonna get back into it. So you, the only person, can explain to Amazonians exactly what you're talking about. With your permission, you give us 2 more minutes to get into Undaunted to revive or refresh the minds of Amazonians when it comes to the report of Ezot Mvondo Simon that Cameroon is instrumentally using to enhance their hegemony and to stay the occupation of Amazonia. With your permission, sir, we're getting back into Undaunted and we'll be back in 3 minutes to ask you some questions.
Yes, thank you so much, Director Paddy. Thank you so much, Paddy, for that. And like our news director said, we talked about General Ezo Mvondo Simon in the course of our news bulletin this week, and that was yesterday, I believe. And we're still going to go in depth on that, so we get back to the Secretary of State for Communications and IT. Now, Amazonian Liberation War, we've been asking if Brigadier General Ezom Vondo Simon will he succeed where others had failed woefully. Now, in one of their latest moves that we told you, in delaying their coming to the Swiss-led mitigation process, Paul Biya of genocidal junta via Brigadier General Ezom Vondo Simon conceived and already is implementing what we call counterintelligence gathering strategy to fight the Amazonian Restoration Forces, the ARFs. It was initially tested in Lebialem with the assassination of Field Marshal of the then Red Dragons Oliva Likiaka. This Azon Vondo Simon's project is about our children, recruited from within our communities to be used to fight us. It is noteworthy to add that they have been trained and deployed back into these communities as earlier averred, these recruitees came through thanks to Anglophone elites in Yaoundé. Since the La République du Cameroon had vowed to fight us via local government areas and counties, they made sure that these boys and girls are our own who can easily mingle and speak our local languages. He has been recruited in Yaoundé, Douala, and other parts of La République du Cameroon. Now, those charged with the recruitment process were told to ensure that the recruitees are bona fide Amazonians. They must know the nook and crannies of their villages, local government areas, and counties very well. Now, they have been trained on counterintelligence gathering, like how are they going to work? This is what they would do. They would infiltrate, gather information and strategies being used by the ARFs in fighting La République du Cameroon.
Now, this is how this Bulu Betty General Zomvondo Simon hopes his new project will deliver Amazonia to Cameroon. For example, now let's take this story. A child from Kikakum is recruited and trained, sent back to Kikakum. He comes home looking tattered, needy, desolate. Now, if he was before in Kikiakum, went out and returned, he would say he returned home because his life is very unbearable in town and he has no other option than returning to his roots. He would appear very humble and willing to be part of any activity in the village or quarter. Seeing that he is gradually being accepted, he would spend his time condemning and denouncing the Cameroon's government for failing him and the people. Now, depending on the mindset of those he meets, and if they give him or her a listening ear, he would lie in his part that he got employed in the military and many others. But surprisingly, he was unjustly dismissed. Now, remember the lie and propaganda that 1,000 gendarmes were dismissed as a result of fake certificates or documents? Oh well. They were intriguingly telling us that former Atanga Boys, now under the command of General Ezo Mvondo Simani, have been redeployed.
Okay, now, so this is us giving you details of how they plan this espionage. And as suspected, an Ezom Vundo Simone trained intelligence gathering agent would say he couldn't live in the town Yaoundé because of no means and no one to live with. So he has to come back home in his village. Now, he would pretentiously throw his support behind the ARFs fighting the ongoing war of liberation and will regret of actually seeing the marginalization of Anglophones. But now, a thing many some see and experienced years ago, as things get easier for him, he would want to know our ARFs within his assigned jurisdiction. If he finally gets to meet any, he would genuflect and thank them for the good fight they have drafted their lives for. He would narrate his ordeals with the Yaoundé junta and would plead to join them and fight too. In order to prove that he is broke, he would beg money and food from the ARFs. In any village or local government area where he succeeds in convincing the ARFs to recruit him, his main task would be to see how the ARFs operate, their routes, and how they live their day-to-day lives. Meanwhile, as he progresses, he updates Yawande, and where he has issues, Yawande advises him on how to overcome them. Once he succeeds in belonging to a camp, he monitors all that the ARFs are doing. He tells Yawande, which in turn will immediately strategize to counter what the ARFs have planned to do. And if a popcorn has been planted, he would alert the nearest military camp not to dare pass around that area. The Cameroon military will later come and defuse the popcorn. Now, we are told about a year or so when a popcorn in Falco was planted, a rogue and infiltrated fighter within the ranks of our FACO fighters called the military and told them about it. He even directed them where the popcorn was, and the military went there and dug it out.
Well, finally, their last job description will be to help La Republic du Cameroon to know all the entries and outlets into our camps. Like the Batibo mass murder of ADF and Unity warriors by La Republic du Cameroon on July 28, 2022, the later wants to know all these entries and outlets so that they can repeat another Batibo wherever and when opportune. Is it not shocking that the so-called ADF guerrillas fighters were easily ambushed in Batibo, which they claim to be their headquarters? If La Republic du Cameroon could easily enter, collect their weapons, and carry out a mass murder at Cho Ayaba's fighters, it means if he is given the Amazonian to govern, his friends and partners in La Republic du Cameroon will enter and take the presidency without much ado. Once an enemy or stranger knows your backyard as you do, or even more than you do, know that that enemy has technically overthrown you. Now, if truly the ADF was fighting for Amazonian and have a patriotic and nationalistic membership, they should have asked their leader to quit struggle for having organized a gathering that led to the killing of Amazonian children. As we speak, we are told that these as Vondo Simon boys and girls are already active in Macon, even though not well known in Macon until they accepted they lied that they witnessed the popular enthronement of the new fawn of Macon. Since they were not available during his coronation, they have come to congratulate and admonish him to continue on the good legacy of his father. Now, this is how they got themselves accepted in Macon and rumored to have killed two Batibo Kufo fighters.
Okay, so now you've heard the whole tale of the espionage and how they plan to carry it out. Well, now it's not like it's really a new one. It's really not a new project. They had tested it via the so-called disunity warriors. Since that one didn't work, they now fine-tune it and are sending new faces through our children whom they have brainwashed to infiltrate us. Let me say in passing that the KGB operated as such as against the CIA during the Cold War. Taking a cue from the above, did Russia assist Cameroon in training these Azomvondo Simone boys and girls? Well, going forward, what the ARF in particular and Amazonians in general should do is that any new face in the community who might have come to for an occasion or activity and is not returning is a suspect. Anyone, especially new faces, you see hanging around our neighborhoods and doing nothing is also a suspect. Any new face looking tattered, tipsy, and being critical of the Yaoundé genocidal junta is a suspect. Any new face you hear rather saying that he's back home because it's very difficult to continue living in the city is also a suspect. And once these suspects are picked up, they should be interrogated thoroughly. We don't need to remind anyone that the General Azonvondo Simone boys have phones and tracking devices. Aside that, they have two phones, a Koronko and an Android. They move around mostly with the Koronkos, especially where they are not very comfortable in a particular way. They don't make important calls just randomly, even though they use coded languages in communicating with their handlers. Well, the question is, who is General Vondo Simone? What do you have to say about that, Omi?
Oh well, we've heard of several reports concerning who he is. You know, his identity, the trainings he has heard, what he does, the languages he speaks. I mean, so many. But I think we should give Ambazonians a comprehensive biography of who he is. All right, so he is a Bulu Betty born in Asama Sangmalima South region. He is the commander of the 1st Joint Military Region for Center and South. He was promoted general alongside Nka Valerie Bubar Debekriu, among others, via a presidential decree number 2015/381 of 13th August 2015. Now, there are claims that General Ezom Vondo Simon is one of the most influential Betibulus in the Cameroonian military and is also considered by his colleagues as the best in tactical combats. He commanded the military parade on the 20th of May 2017 during the so-called National Unity Day. Cameroon Tribune Emmanuel Kendema wrote on 20th April 2020 that Brigadier General Ezom Vondo Simon is specialized in armored cavalry, a soldier rich in experience, speaks and writes French, English, and German. Now, he continued that apart from the language proficiency that has enabled him to undergo training courses in War College in Germany, Brigadier General Ezom Vondo Simon is also the holder of Senior Staff Certificate at the School of Infantry Officers in Germany. He equally did a course for unit commanders and also that for captains at École d'Application d'Amblende Calvaire in France. He graduated from the Yaoundé Combined Services Military Academy, EMIA, in the Rudolph Douala Manga Bell batch of 1983 to 1986.
Still being curious, will Esso Vondo Simone succeed where others failed? Well, obviously no. When Cavalry was posted to Bamenda to execute what they termed Bamenda Clean, supporters of the Bulubeti genocidal junta celebrated just like they did when Biya declared war on Ambazonians on 30th November 2017 at the tarmac of Nsimelen Airport. They also boasted that General Buba Debekrio, who was brought to replace Cavalry, was a super soldier. Nothing has changed in their favor. Apart from the collection of their weapons from the ADF, slaughtering of over a dozen of their fighters, La République du Cameroon on August 9, 2022, suffered the highest defeat ever in the hands of the Jaguars of Bamissing, under the able command of Field Marshal Sagon. Is the Azon Vondo Simon-led project the last attempt before Cameroon goes to the Swiss-led mediation process? Well, I just have a hopeful yes. Why am I being hopeful about this? Yes, because La République du Cameroon has tried every possible means to defeat the ARF, but so far nothing has worked. It should be recalled that this new form of infiltration, which they hope it will work, now involves our own children selected within our quarters, villages, and local government areas. Too bad about that, though.
Oh, well, still very bad. But this time around, Cameroon thinks that once a brother comes, speaks a language, while condemning Cameroon, well, he thinks that he will be easily be accepted, but it's not that way. Now, it's not going to work because we know ourselves and we are conscious of the fact that not all Amazonians are truly for Amazonia. Some are using our paraphernalia to infiltrate us. We are not going to fail for these amateurish intelligence gathering. One or two will fail, one or two can also fall into these traps, but the majority are wiser and are able to dictate any maneuvers from wherever and from whoever. Now, on the other hand, Cameroon will have no choice but to come to the mediation table to meet Ambazonian's delegation that will be led by the interim government under the stewardship of President Samuel Ika and not the fake and discredited or disoriented group that have come or that have been trying to guide and teleguide, beginning with the one they inspired its creation from Kondengi.
Now, it is no longer news that Cameroon is trying to do to the interim government and Mr. President what they did to Prime Minister Augustin Ngomjua in 1968, using Solomon Tandeng Muna since he was one of us. The one of us notion has an antidote just in case they forgot that. Today, after having failed severally to impose Chowyaba Abdul Kamali Esi, etc., on Amazonians, they are now trying to see if Anu Christopher would be a remedy. Whoever they bring to fight us, we will fight that person and then till the last man standing. Because this is a God-ordained struggle we are fighting for the actualization of our restored independence and not, and not any form of association with La Republic du Cameroon, because no one drinks poison twice. Now, nothing in fashion by man will stop us from reaching Boya. It can only delay for a while, but we will eventually triumph, as we always say. Now, I believe our director party would like to say something in this regard. Would like to hand over now to Tapa the King.
Thank you, Star. Thank you, Onye. Thank you, Undaunted, for the great report. As you can see, with the help of some of our activists, we've been able to x-ray Zo Mvondo Simon Betty Bon, who has been sent by Cameroon. And the good news tonight is that we have the spokesman for Amazonia here seated to talk to us from the government standpoint. This is quite critical. When the Secretary of State for Communications and ID earlier on this morning told me what he's going to be talking about, and I went to do some research. You know, when Dr. Mungwa comes up with headings and topics to discuss on, you have to maybe do some research. I went and I did research and I saw this is a critical matter. And then I wanted to find out what is all about. And then I saw that it was imperative for us to present this to his table. It is left for you to decide, Secretary of State for Communications and IT, decide for us, Dr. Mungwa, if you want us to go back to your heading as a beginning, or you want to handle this, and then we go back there to break down what you wanted to talk to the people tonight.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Paddy. And again, good day or good evening, whatever time is relevant to you, Ambazonians. I'm happy to be with you today. And I think the topics that you've mentioned are very important to our fight for freedom. And I think I would like us to start with this Brigadier General, is it Eze or Ozo Vondo Simon, who has been sent as the person to deliver Ambazonian to La Republic. The situation is serious, and we should not take it lying down. It's very, very serious. And you can see that it has taken them quite a while to put this plan into action. And why do I say that? Because to have been able to train more than 1,000 Amazonians, to give them the techniques of intelligence gathering without us actually intercepting until the last moment is very important and it's very serious. So we should be very watchful of what happens on the ground. We should be very watchful of the actions of some of our own countrymen. So I'm appealing to everybody. Amazonians and the ARFs that situational awareness is key. You have to be aware of your environment and the techniques that they are using now and the techniques that they've deployed, the full range of it. I will not disclose to the public, or we will not disclose to the public. We have to feed them directly to the ARFs so they can be uh, trained and they can be aware. They should be able to identify all these Amazonians who want to collaborate with La Republique to destroy us. I can tell you from the information that I'm getting from the home front, our forces are well prepared. They are well prepared. And the interim government is doing all in its power to provide them with the necessary equipment, with the necessary materials to defend themselves when the time comes. So I am here to reassure the ARFs, I'm here to reassure the Ambazonians that the interim government is not sleeping. We are watching every step that they are making. And as you said earlier, this plan was hatched with the support of the elite, the Amazonian elite in Yaoundé. We are talking about ministers or people of ministerial ranks. We are talking about parliamentarians. We are talking about senators. We are even talking about members in the government, civil servants who are working for La Republic government. They are all in collusion to execute this plan. We are talking about quarterheads who have all been bribed. We are talking about any person who has any iota of power. These are the people who are being used in order to infiltrate us. So it is not a simple issue. We have to take this seriously. And that's why I talk about situational awareness. We really have to be alert. This is the ultimate moment for survival because these people have been given all the gadgets they need in order to infiltrate us. But I can assure you, they will not. They will not. Because any moment we sort of get any outer information, we will make it public, as I did about a week ago. Because our intelligence is sophisticated, our intelligence goes into the heart of La Republic, and everything. If you have more than three people sitting to decide on Amazonia, there is one of us among them. We can tell them that. We can tell them that. Or somebody will do something that we will be able to get that information and bring it to your knowledge. So this is what I have to say. It is serious, it is sophisticated, but we are up to the task. Over to you, Paddy.
Thank you very much, Secretary Mungwa, for that. It is serious, but we are up to the task. I think I'd like us to talk a little bit more on the technology that Cameroon employ and is employing or employs to make sure that they can infiltrate and neutralize our self-defense apparatus. You've just heard from the report Undaunted presented this evening. What they do is they want to now disguise a BT born who can infiltrate the communities, pretend to be a part of us. And we even hear they use mad people. Now you see a new madman appears in your street corners and you think this is just a mad person, but this is an investigator. And would I say a CID with machine guns inside, taking data and giving to Yaoundé. That's great intelligence and great war technology. Um, I understand you're not the Secretary of State for Self-Defense, but as spokesperson, you may also want to give another information that reassures our people of our intelligence on the ground, not just equipping the boys, but what is our counterintelligence. We also need intelligence within Yaoundé and within our community. To what extent have we developed our self-defense intelligence and communication intelligence? Thank you.
In the world of intelligence, there is nothing superior to the human person. let me tell you, that's the ultimate intelligence, the human person. You may have sophisticated equipment. You may have, I don't know, drones or whatever. But the ultimate intelligence is the human being. And that's where we are extremely effective. I can assure you this. We are very effective in human intelligence. And that's how we're able to capture everything that Laropre does. Human intelligence. So on that front alone, we can tell you that we are we are absolutely we are very confident in that. Obviously, you have the assistance of gadgets or gadgetry, um, communication equipment. It doesn't matter how sophisticated. I think the sophistication is a bit. It can only be as sophisticated as the person who uses that piece of equipment, and probably using an associated language or code in order to transmit. But those are secondary because if you carry something on you, no matter how sophisticated it is, if you are caught, that equipment is of no use to you. It's not going to save you. And that's why I'm saying that in the area of human intelligence, we have human intelligence that goes beyond our borders, that goes beyond our Amazonians. There are lots of people from all fronts who are actually assisting us to get this human intelligence, and with a lot uh, of people who actually believe in our cause. You have to understand too that intelligence also is linked to a belief. I know there are few people who can be bought, but there is a belief that somebody is right and others wrong. And that's why we have sustained this war, fighting a government, fighting the trained military people who have all the resources at their disposal to fight us. Yet we have nothing. Why is it so? Because we are right, and there are lots of people who believe in their conscience that we have a legal position, and this legal position is going to take us to independence. So they can deploy whatever number of people they think they've convinced in order to fight against us. But as most of the people are saying, this is God ordained. It's not ordained for just for nothing. It's because we have a lot of people who think that we have right to what we are saying. We are not wrong. If we were wrong, we would have been defeated a long time ago. And I think that is a message that we are going to send to Brigadier General Vondo Simon, that in his conscience, because I know even within his family, they are not united in the approach that he has taken. His brother or step brother or half brother is against him. And that we know. We know that he's against him. And he had even accused him of selling out the information to the public. Of course, that's entirely wrong. We had that information well ahead of time. And I think I brought that information to the Amazonian people um, a week before I gave the gentleman's name, because we wanted to investigate and make sure that the information is authentic. And I think when the interim government verified that it was authentic, we came on air and we told the Ambazonian people, and it is true, it is authentic, and he has concurred that it came from him, and there's no matter about the intent of the Bulu Beti junta uh, on Ambazonians. Over to you.
Dr. Mungwa, you have spoken well, and I like the way you always speak from a simplistic perspective. But there's a concern which I hope to believe, or I want to believe that Amazonians may have that same concern. Intelligence, using intelligence, military intelligence, communication intelligence during wartime seems to be working. And I understand that putting this report together, we did so with the help of some intelligence, even from the enemy's camp. And like I said, it's working. Do you think there is any need for the interim government to consciously, calculatively escalate their intelligence on the ground and in La Republic to Cameroon, militarily and otherwise?
This is not, I don't think I have the right to tell you that. that is an option that the interim government will decide when the need comes. I'm not coming here to tell you when we are going to escalate or if we've already escalated. There is an action and a reaction. And we determine that in critical and strategic meetings. It's not for me to come in front of you and tell that, yes, we have to escalate. We must have the indicators that will make us believe that escalation or de-escalation is necessary. That is something for the intelligence team to determine. It's not for me to sit here in front of you and vouch everything that we have to do. But rest assured, and the fact is there, for us to have intercepted this very critical piece of information and been able to give you the details of the modus operandi shows that we have very active and very sophisticated internet intelligence network at the home front. I don't have to go beyond it, and the proof is there. And nobody has come out to refute the fact that uh, this junta military leader actually devised this technique. You've also heard about his military background, um, which we cannot ignore. He's a well trained military person and he speaks multiple languages. And these are the qualities of very, very good military personnel. So we shouldn't take it jokingly. It is very serious. And we also know that he's a blood relative of President Biya. So what else do you expect us to do or to say? We have given Amazonians enough information to let them understand that we are following up with the activities of this criminal. He's a criminal because he's actually furthering the genocidal war against Amazonia. And that should be made very clear. And he will go down in history with Valerinka and the others who have committed crime against humanity on our people. So we are watching. We are only defending ourselves. And when the time comes for people to vote, for people to respond to their actions, he will definitely be one of them. Just a matter of time. Thank you.
I think you have calculatively and deniably still provided an answer. I must tell you that I'm satisfied with the response that you gave. Now we get into the main subject of the day, and we will conclude with Ngoke Tunja draft that is coming up this weekend. Why is it very instrumental that Amazonians, like never before, come out in their numbers to draft Ngoke Tunja? That is your place of birth. Why is it instrumental? So let's get into this discussion. Dr. Mungwa, you mentioned earlier on in your, I don't like the word monologue. It's an English word, but I just hate it. Perhaps you want to guess why it is not for me to say it. But I would say your expose was enlightening, and it's something I would advise Ambazonians. We always share this on our website when Dr. Mungwa finishes. There's a slot where you can go and read because he takes a lot of time, works with great minds like Dr. Matt Tezok to put together these writings. It's not a one-man show where somebody picks disjointed words to animate you on air. This is full research that can stand in any platform and can effectively represent Amazonians. Dr. Mungwa, you mentioned earlier on that you're talking on the Senate Resolution 684, Amazonia's equivalence of the Balfour Declaration. The first thing when you said that, I did a little bit of research to find out what is this all about in the uscongress.com, and this is what I found out. I found out that all information about this is a resolution calling on the government of Cameroon. That's a colonial, we call it the colonial government, and the separatists. It's unfortunate that major organs, or call them globalization enabling organs and institutions and governments, still call us separatists, which is in defiance of Article 1608 and the fact that we were voted as an independent nation. So they said they're calling on the government and separatists. The good news about it is the identification of us and separatist armed groups from the English speaking Northwest. I hate the Northwest and Southwest regions to end all violence, respect human rights of all Cameroonians, and pursue a genuinely inclusive dialogue toward resolving the ongoing civil conflict in Anglophone Cameroon. What is this all about again? You spoke a very big grammar there. I understood some things and I wish to understand more. But then you are concerned from the second part of your discussion, Ambazonia's equivalence of the Balfour Declaration. What is that all about?
Okay, let me make this very clear. When there is a resolution from the American Senate, Americans don't back down. That's one point you have to understand. Especially in our case, that was signed by all the senators, 100 of them, 50 from the Democratic Party and 50 from the Republican Party. The Americans never back down. So whatever noise that you have around the negotiations, people talking about, oh, this thing is an internal issue, let us come like brothers and sisters and resolve it. That is hot wash. It's like throwing water on a duck's back. The Americans are very patient. They can never back down. America will never back down on this resolution. 16 pages, I have a copy here myself. And it's very clear. Unconditional. We have to come to the table and there will be an arbitration. There will be lawyers from both sides. They will present their case. And there will be a judge. And the final decision that will be made as a result of that legal presentation will be the outcome of it. And we have the facts on our side. That is why La Republique doesn't want to show up. They're trying to run away from it. They are only taking more rope to hang themselves with. Because all the atrocities that have been committed by La Republique in the course of the war, they will come to answer for them. And we know that the International Court, Criminal Court, is already investigating all the atrocities committed by La Republique soldiers, submitted by the interim government. We have that information. It's not dead. They're working on it. And there will be a day of reckoning. So the Balfour Declaration, if I can connect it to our case, was the same situation that happened to the Israelis. And when Lord Balfour wrote this statement, 67 words, that alone was able to give the Jewish people a homeland. So for the Senate resolution, that says very clearly, it's unconditional. We will come to that table as equals. Because we went to Fumban not as Anglophones, not as Northwesterners, not as Southwesterners, not as a military junta, not as a governing council. We went there as a government led by a prime minister, Funcha. And among his entourage, you had people from the opposition party. He was the principal, Funcha. And the same applies to today. We could not have sat at a table with Ahidjo as a government, and today they want us to show up as rebels. How undignifying. Let Ambazonians understand this. We sat with Ahidjo as a government. We cannot be sitting with Bia as a rebel group, as a governing council, as Northwest and Southwest, as whatever. That's the honorable thing to do. And if La Republique trying to reduce us to either Anglophones or whatever they call it, we are not going to accept it. Because when we came to Fumba, we're not coming as Anglophones. We came there under the banner of the Frontier government. And today, we are going to go to the negotiating table under the banner of the interim government with Dr. Samuel Komisako as the principal. Thank you.
Uh, Secretary Mungwa, before we even make an advancement on this, when I read through this Congress resolution, something boils down. Something really baffles me because maybe is it based on literature review, the words that are being used and the context and what they imply. Maybe because I've done some form of extensive investigation on the subject of Ambazonia's quest for freedom. And when I look at some of those words, they actually carry meanings. You have every government that wants to talk about us or to us seem to the claim is official for them to call us Cameroon, call it a government, call us Northwest and Southwest, the Northwest and Southwest dichotomy, which we know was a geopolitical fraud with an objective to separate us. But it's quite troubling when these words keep coming. Do you think we need to increase our narrative on top of the stage? I'm talking on mainstream media and start denying not just the fact that we have been enslaved or captured and occupied for close to 6 decades, but we start denying some of the appellations outrightly. Once the president said, even when he's interviewed and they address him with certain names, he stops them immediately. First of all, because a name represents a people. It's legal. It has some legitimacy, nomenclature, identifies a people. And those names are colonially designed to enslave us. For instance, Northwest, Southwest simply means we're just a region or two regions in a 10 region country that purportedly is one.
You're absolutely correct. But remember that there's always a political correctness when you have media people talking about us. And again, if you look at, I think the typical person who actually at least referred to this was Tibonai. He said American diplomacy, it is not sort of frozen. It is not, it is dynamic, if I can put it that way. Things change. This resolution came out on the 1st of January 2021. Um, and remember, it probably took a year or so to put into place. So they have to use contemporary information and contemporary language. We Ambazonians, the name Ambazonia, Southern Cameroons, is something that we've been trying to sell for the past 5 or 6 years. So it's going to take time for it to to hold. I can understand your anger, you can understand your frustration, but it doesn't deny the fact that they have recognized the key issues that affect us. If you look at the resolution, it is very clear that the Americans have understood exactly what the problem is. And I can read one of them. Whereas the official actions and policies of the Francophone dominated government of Cameroon have repressed English speaking Cameroonians politically and economically throughout the history of Cameroon, dating back to the reunification of British administered Southern Cameroon and the French Cameroon under the federal system, October 1961. Who else? I mean, how clear is this? Is this not clear enough? They have been able to document exactly what's affecting us. And that clause alone is enough for us to say we cannot go any further with these people. They have been suppressing us since 1961. We should thank the Americans for doing their homework, for going into the core issues that are making us slaves, and disenfranchising our communities since independence. And that's why they are calling for an unconditional uh, settlement of these issues. We have to sit down and we have to tell them what we want. That is very important. So forget about the political colors. Forget about the political correctness of the language they use. But they have pinpointed the real problem that is touching, the real problem that are actually affecting us as human beings. And if nothing is done about those core issues, a name is nothing. Okay? It's nothing. But the core issues are far more important. They're far more penetrating. We are fighting a war now and we have no access to our resources. They think they own it. They think because of oil they cannot let Ambassador go. But they fail to understand that oil will finish within the next decade or so. What are they going to do? But we can tell Ambazonians that what is going to put us on the world economic stage is our brain, human resources, and the ability for us to be creative. And I can tell you, Ambazonians are creative. We have Ambazonians throughout the world who are ready to build our institutions, who are ready to build our infrastructure. South Korea does not have oil. How come they're one of the most powerful countries on earth? Look at Vietnam. In 1975, Cameroon's GDP was 8 times that of Vietnam. 2022, Vietnamese nationals are building electric cars in the United States. Is it because they have oil? When you have people who are deficient, they are so they do not like hard work. They want others to work for them. That's why they will stick to anything that will give them money without them doing anything. And this is what La Republique is all about. This attitude where they have to colonize another country so they can work for them is not new. When Haiti was destroyed by the French, what did they do? They attacked Dominican Republic to colonize them. And what happened? The Spanish came in, supported the Dominicans, and they drove off Haiti. It's the same attitude that the French want to tell La Republique to do to us. It's a model that they have used all over the world. And that is France for you. Today, Haiti is the poorest nation in the Western Hemisphere with a GDP of about $700. And in neighboring Dominican Republic, the GDP is about $6,000, tenfold. That is the message that Ambazonians have to understand today. They are using the Haiti model to impose on La Republique. So long as La Republique is weak, thinking that others have to work for them, that is what France will do to them, giving the impression that without oil they cannot survive. I hope Ambazonians understand this. We are going to fight them and we are going to gain our country. And we have the brains to develop our infrastructure. It's not oil. And the interim government is aware of it. Over to you.
That's quite amazing. Amazonians, we will be taking questions from you now. You've heard everything the SOS is saying. SOS, you have restored some hope for those who have problems with the word Northwest and Southwest. At least you've gone into some of those dark lines to pull out what they said, calling us English Cameroon, Anglophone Cameroon. Again, Cameroon loves the word Anglophone, Anglophone problem, English Cameroon. I really don't want us to derail the
Let me
discussion.
correct that once and for all.
Yes,
We
yes,
are not Anglophones. We are
that's it.
Ambazonians. Okay?
Perfect.
Anglophones can be a Chinese who speaks English,
Yes.
can be a Japanese who speaks English.
Mhm.
We are Ambazonians. And whoever considers himself or herself an Anglophone and is not an Ambazonian, we have little or nothing in common. I think that should be made very, very clear.
Yeah, I told somebody SOS. They said end Anglophone crisis. I said that's a paradox. I was telling an Al Jazeera journalist and one of the artists in Cameroon. I said that's a paradox because there is no Anglophone problems in Cameroon. Of course, former late Issa Churuma, who is an Anglophone, doesn't have a problem in Cameroon. And if you look at Agbobala, who has chosen to be an Anglophone, does not have a problem in Cameroon. Camto does not have a problem. Frank Bia is an Anglophone. He doesn't have a problem in the Cameroons. Uh, the other one, they call it, I know, but his nickname, they call him Papitos, Joshua Osing of Frundi. He doesn't have a problem in Cameroon. So it's really a paradox for anyone to consider us Anglophones. Yes, SOS, what is now, it's taking too long. This whole thing boils down to one thing. Cameroon has got to humble themselves and to talk to us as a nation, as man to man, like we say it in Pidgin. No longer thinking that we're their babies or their priceless possession or whatever, and they wouldn't want to talk to us. They want to pretend to have a grand national dialogue. It's like a forum where they come and read to us already written resolutions. This whole thing boils down to negotiations, genuine dialogue that will lead to a negotiated settlement. And you are a member of Team Amazonia. What is the connection? Is the interim government doing a follow up into the US Congress to see if there can be a press and a presser? Or what are the options? What are we doing in a short term? What should we expect? Thank you.
Uh, thank you. That's a very important question. I understand that a lot of Ambazonians are very curious as to what the interim government is doing. Um, I mean, I hope I'm not going to overstretch my portfolio by talking about foreign relations. And so I may disappoint you a little by not giving you all that you want. Uh, the interim government, with obviously under the leadership of Dr. Sako, um, they are revising a lot of things as we speak, and um, some internal changes will be made, and I'm sure when the time comes, the president is going to uh, inform Ambazonians. But I cannot go further than that because that's not my expertise. Uh,
Yes,
but remember,
Dr. Moon, I do
of
not,
course,
I wouldn't even like you to give any information that is not required. All we, the people, want to know is that the interim government has engaged. And I know that the people of Amazonia will not doubt their interim government. If the interim government say, yes, we're doing something, we're following up, we're pressing on, you can expect anything anytime soon. That is what that
yes,
assurance, because this is a government that has said we're gonna start beating Cameroon with lava storm one, two, three, and they are doing so. There's a
yes,
government that has accountability like no other group. It's not a group anyway, it's a government, but you have uh, groups that are purportedly calling themselves whatever. They don't have accountability. This is the one and only government. We have a first caller here, and I see calls are already coming in.
let me
We
just
have a
make a
caller.
comment to that so that we don't make it
Yes,
too
go ahead.
long.
Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I mean, in terms
Go
of
ahead.
working with the State Department or some American officials, that is a given, obviously, and as well as La Republique, they're also trying to have their inroads within the American structure, if I can put it, in a very generic form. They are trying their best, and we too are, and we are making headways. I don't want to give specifics, but you asking me whether talking to the State Department. Of course, they are talking to the State Department. I mean, who else can we talk to? We talk to the State Department. We did talk to the negotiator, the Swiss negotiator. We talk to the technical partners, HD. Yes, we are talking to all these people. But what you have to understand that as a principal, the principal has the right to do certain things, and as the principal, Dr. Sako has a right to do a lot of things. And he is, I mean, looking into all those overtures to see what he can do to make certain things happen. And that's all I can say now. Uh, he is a very somebody who really thinks very profoundly, and at times you may think that he has gone dead. He's not talking, or he's his mind has lapsed and he's not doing. In fact, that's the time that he will be most productive. So rest assured that he is working very very hard to see that certain things positive to our cause are actually done. That I can tell you.
Yes, thank you. ABC viewers and Amazonians at the home front, ladies and gentlemen, we have not been able to get the president come live for an exclusive interview on ABC Amber TV because during the draft season, the president is solely engaged. As I speak to you, he's already having workshops and doing things and calling and making sure that the draft this Saturday becomes a success like that of DMC. DMC was a shock to many, and it was an inspiration for those of us who knew what they're doing at the back. We have a caller here from the home front. He's been on the phone for about 5 minutes. Daddy, you're welcome to this very special discussion for today. I want to make sure that your sound is the best, but I think the floor is all yours. You can speak.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Mr. Paddy. I hope you are getting me very well.
Very loud and clear. The SOS should nod his head to be sure.
Okay, thank you very much. Greeting to the SOS, Dr. Mungwa.
Yes.
There is one thing that has been disturbing me, and I don't know how much are they going to stop it, because the other countries of the world keep addressing us as the Anglophone, the two Anglophone zones, as if they don't know that we came as one and indivisible serving Cameroon on the date of the plebiscite. Why do they again still call us the two Anglophone zones? Now, second to that, I don't know how much are we doing to let the journalists back at home front to know that we went to the plebiscite as one and indivisible serving Cameroon. Why is there that spirit of the Northwest Highway or calling us Anglophone? Now they call it Mosu. We have never been Mosu. They call it Lezango, but we give them that respect of calling them to their names of which they get a when they got their independence, and they probably down they were meeting at the United Nations. They are known as La Republic du Cabo, and that respect is still given to them. By the Southern Cameroon calling them La Republic du Cabo, which is their original name. What makes us, especially the other countries of the world, who know this very well, especially the country that even voted for the independence of Southern Cameroon on the 25th of April 1961, they still call it the two Anglophone zones, or the Northwest and South. Now, what are you people doing to let them know? The agreement on the plebiscite that one and individual Southern Cameroon, especially to tell the journalists back at home, especially those of the journalists of my prime media and other journalists of the Equinox. Journalists tell themselves all people know it, and if they are not going to school and they tell them, and they got the history of this country, they will keep as one and individual Southern Cameroon, and they splitting and put at the call for the plebiscite. What effort are people doing to stop all the especially the other countries of the world? Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. You have revised my concern, and I think the Secretary of State for Communications and IT will give a revised answer to the one he gave to me. And Dr. Mungwa, you can hear the concerns are deep. The
Yes,
people are like, why understanding our historicity and legality as a nation? It is
right.
always an assault, an insult, a vex in the heart for us to feel that we're called the slave the film Kunta Kinte. When they gave him a name,
Absolutely.
he denied his name because of the
Yeah.
power in nomenclature. So we
Right.
feel vexed in our spirit because we know what it means when they call us Northwest and Southwest regions. We know what that means.
Yeah.
So
That's
he wants
that's
to know what you are planning, what your government, in terms of communication and other things, are trying to do.
right. I mean, I thank you once more, and I really appreciate what the gentleman from the home front is complaining about. It's legitimate. It hurts all of us, and I just want to reassure this gentleman that. Um, when we talk about the issues that affect us, we put a hierarchy. You have which is most important and which is less important. I'm not claiming that that word northwest, southwest, or no so is not important. You have to understand that that's a tactic that the colonizer has used to diffuse the issue and make it look a local event. We are not going to accept it. I think I really suggest that each Amazonian should get a copy of that Senate Resolution 684. Read it carefully. Read it. The Americans have outlined, identified every single problem that is affecting us. Every single problem. Pages and pages and pages of it. Maybe if when you read through this, it will calm you down that somebody has been fighting for us. From page 1 to page 9, they are all complaints that the Americans have researched and written down. And that is the basis for us to have unconditional talk with La Republic. They are all documented in here. So what I suggest you do is that go to the internet, try to pull this document, read it as often as you can. Maybe that will calm you down. The Americans have helped us. They have taken time, do the research themselves, and they've put it in a document that we can all read and understand. And there is nothing in here that anybody can complain and not find it. In fact, they probably know more than we do because they have identified the 9 pages of complaints, of observations. Let me not say complaints. Our complaints turned into observations. And after that, they state what their position is and what must be done to resolve it. At the level of the two countries, at the level of Africa, and at the level of the world. It is important that we follow these different stages so that when that resolution, when at the end of it, when we have a resolution, it will be documented in all these places so that nobody can say no, oh, these people are this or these people are that. That's the essence of it. But La Republic wants us to go and sit in a house in Volier without windows and they hatch out a plan. And when you start arguing, they'll tell you and say, oh, nothing ever happened. Who knows about it? And they will start all this journey all over again. Don't be fooled. Those who go to negotiate with La Republique in Volier, these are the people who are trying to sell our future for the mess of pudding. We are not going to accept it. You cannot go somewhere now and say Nigeria did not have independence. Of course, they say they had. They'll go to the UN. They'll pull out the document. But if it was done in a closed house somewhere, how are you going to reference it? And that's exactly what La Republique wants us to do. To go in a house somewhere like they did in Fumba. If they fool you the second time, then you are really a fool. You can be excused for being fooled the first time because you didn't know the modus operandi of your opponent. Now that we've been fooled the first time, we cannot be fooled again. That is what stupidity is defined. And that's how they call somebody a stupid person. Because you are doing the same error the second time. We cannot do the same, commit the same error the second time. I want to
Yes, they
assure
want to
that.
call us Anglophones. Yeah, we have another caller on the line. Caller, just go right ahead. Ye- yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, so greetings to SOS and to the undoubted team for the great job that you people are speaking here, I have a message to send to my people on home front. So, Mami and Papa them, I the one thing when I see, like SOS don't talk, we not be Anglophones, we not be Mittola Republic like Anglophones. We go like Southern Cameroonians, the country where they don't make even election, get their own government, they transfer power, send for the opposition where they get them. We call them like a government and we work together. Yes, we go join with them. Now we don't restore that government, we don't go talk with them. Like public get their own government, we get our own government. They get there for independence, we get all there for independence and all those things. I want to give you this small thing for you who know, say like public, that people when they want to cooperate with you, they be very kindly. When you get a problem, international community the toxin will solve the root causes. But the Republic, it goes solving all root causes, it define all root causes and says they can't talk. The root cause now which will be joined and will be finalize the Union Treaty and all those things. But the Republic, it come now and say all root cause and say, oh, they will be translate or add a law into English. They will be get call up a bench for bilingualism, culturalism. It is said now in all things them. And as soon we will get our leaders and we will not put that for LGAs, for counties, for interim government and president. The Republic ignore them. It want to impose like own leaders, like how they impose Ayijo on top bidder, they impose Pobia on top Ayijo, and so they started doing. And at the same time they can't impose their process system. We don't talk say we be a government and we don't want to meet up La Republic as a government. But La Republic now, it won't try for use corner for council, something where they call and say revolutionary council, where you hear some leaders, some people who they claim say they did all yesterday. Now they really know say the other one they not stand with us. They can't talk and say they want be a person, we want gather people, we want gather everybody. Because they want to project and send out that issue for a revolutionary council. Where I tell you the danger we there for revolutionary council. A revolutionary council, it means a lot of these people send them back to Anglophones. Yeah. We will not get the status of a government. We will not get the status of a government. A revolutionary council means that when they send our leaders, they will go for them independently. And what will happen in the Republic, they will bribe those leaders. I give concrete example. For 1991, opposition them after the launching of the multi-partism opposition they look up for open toxic they want a sovereign national conference when for the way any man will declare all the assets when they there for article 66 for La Republic their constitution. Now for the way they will toxic they will make electoral reforms. Now for the way they feel even toxic they feel impeach president for La Republic. That thing all La Republic very well for go for France. Then they go for France, they go tell you, no, they come in a larger debate or another thing, they go call and say tripartite talks. So the opposition then they foolishly go for it because some of them, when they know the cost for Bia, say Bia must go, Bia must do so. They foolishly go, they thinking that the tripartite talks is being something like a national dialogue. I mean, the sovereign national conference. When they did this, they go put them for inside hotel, they bribe them with money. All the people where they go for it, all of them they go enter again to go to work for Bia. We get federal conduct them, we get very good by them, we get the other people, we get different people. So when I see some leaders and when today they say they're against the interim government, they say they want to gather all groups, they want to be in a so. Now because they want to go for join themselves, for present themselves for the Republic, okay, we don't come back, we come together, we did this. That is why you will see one of them. A country will stand for the presidential election for government. Then you can tell, right now, so they say, yes, even if we win that election, you know, we made a coin set on the middle of the and then it does say, you know, one you obey the other people like a government, you obey like a group, like a normal group. So it means that you do the thing to go good because they make a revolutionary council. And that is exactly what people in the fall for them go the way before my eyes the water open when I will see those people them and the public will go bribe them, do whatsoever. They will not come 2020 and you tell me they will not give condition to toxic issue they want to settle. They give 4 conditions. None of the conditions if they even talk about independence. None of the conditions, we even talk saying that Republic will travel for the boundaries. But the inside say me go back in balance and inside Saudi Cameroon and everything. So that is what the Coopers are heading to. That is what they
Yeah, we have a lot of we have many other calls coming in. Just round up a little bit, brother.
yes, when I still when I LGs, when I counties, when I stand up, men and Republican dictate leaders on top you people, when I draft and when I continue for fight and until the free Amazonia. Thank you plenty.
Thank you very much. Dr. Mungwa, please, you want to coordinate that? Let me try to get the other call.
Well, yes, I
You want
mean,
to answer that?
I totally agree with what UN has said. He's one of activists who have taken time to understand the complexity of this revolution, and he always gives advice to the home front, and it's wonderful. And he's somebody who is his communication skills in terms of speaking in a lingua franca is second to none. So I welcome that addition and that clarification. Thank you, Yuan.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we have another caller here. Caller, go right ahead. The Secretary of State is listening to you.
Good afternoon, Director, and good afternoon, Secretary of State. Like, we always admire you when you come on the air because you actually educate us. You don't just come on the air and just wow and vowels. You actually come with the knowledge that we all are longing to have and longing to consume. So I want to first start by apologizing to you if my is the question I'm going to ask you, maybe out of topic, but it's things that worries a lot of Amazonia. The first question is I want to find out from the secretary if the IG still have a force on home front. Because we keep saying we don't know if we have our own force on home front.
What do you mean? Are you talking about the restoration forces?
Yes, sir. Because due to the confusion between Chris Anno and all this stuff, everybody's claiming they have these anything that happened like this, we don't actually know. But we still maintain with a strong force. And second question is I want to find out what is the plan after the draft. And the last question is the document she was talking about citing was drafted, you see, you said the document was drafted by the USA. I want to find out if the IG actually play a role preparing that document. Thank you, that's my question.
Dr. Mungwa, the ball is in your court, sir.
Right. I hope I got his question. He's asking about whether we have forces on the ground. Is that correct?
Correct.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's a
I mean,
question.
of course we do. I think the person who is actually best uh, qualified to answer the question is Secretary of State for self-defense, Frank. Yes, we do have forces on the ground, obviously, and that's why we are doing the draft as we speak. Recently, I mean, I don't know whether he's been following up issues at the home front. What happened in Babisi recently under General Sagon? Of course, that was something that was funded via the draft. How we're able to intercept the thugs from Yaoundé, and they were destroyed. So that's something of recent past. It's even not up to a month or so ago when that happened. So and they also have to understand that the ARFs are a guerrilla force. Okay, they don't just come out to expose themselves and then do things that may be consequential to themselves. So they have to be very careful. They need special training of guerrilla warfare, how to intercept the enemy, ambush, and destroy them. So let's really, have our minds focused on the difficulty and the challenges that we have. So that's that. Again, I can't talk beyond it. He talked about the Senate resolution. If I didn't get it well, I want to let you know, for the record, that the Senate resolution was put into place by senators and contribution from the interim government. That tells you the importance of the interim government at the international level. So it wasn't just a bunch of Americans who put it together. The interim government participated, and I believe that our president, Dr. Sako, was also consulted as somebody who understands the root causes of a problem. So to help the Americans put it into place. So if that answers your question, if that's exactly what you're referring to, I think I have given you the answer. Is there anything else outstanding that I should mention?
So the last question, question number two was, we just want to know about the draft because we'll be having problems after each draft each year. So we want to know what are the plans in place after this draft.
What will the plan after the draft? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, it says they'll be having some issues. Thank you very much, caller. I'll take another caller. Another caller now.
No, let me
Now,
have I answered.
yeah, he says he wants to know what will happen after this draft. Now that
Oh,
he asked
that
first
is
of
a
all about
no-brainer. That's a no-brainer. We are the draft is to collect funds in order to defend ourselves. We are not going to tell them that we are going to put one restoration force somewhere in Tico and the other one in Kikakilati. It doesn't make sense. We want the draft. That is our war chest. That's what we use to defend ourselves. It's that simple. I don't think we need to explain what we want to do with the draft. I thought it was self-explanatory. It's not to go fishing or something like that. It's to defend ourselves. Right.
amazing. You see, there's a concern he brought up, asking if the IG still has the IG. Does the IG really still have forces on the ground? You know, there are many voices. Like Nijo says all the time, choose who you listen to. You know, Nijo is a teacher. He uses those simplest ways of making it stick in your mind. Choose who you listen to. So if we still have forces on the ground, you heard audio coming in from Sagon a few days ago after he had destroyed close to 30 colonial forces in
Yeah,
Okitunja.
that's right.
Yes, and with your permission, SOS, I like us to get into Ngokitunja discussing why that draft is a little bit very critical, very important. We may, if the SOS is very busy, I'm giving to him a public invitation for Saturday so that he cannot say no because Amazonians are listening. Sometimes we call him in, he's in a rush and then he joins us. But Saturday panel discussion before the draft, we would like to have you to join with other officials of the county so that we can have this discussion. Let's get into Ngokitunja draft right after this break.
The Amber War Draft Award 22 is here. People, it's time to win again.
This is the time for us to draft until we draft. That must be our slogan and rallying cry now. And along the way, we should be asking ourselves some critical questions.
Are we still enjoying 3 square meals a day? While our boys on the ground lack the basic gear they need to resist the occupiers?
Are we still living a life of luxury and comfort? While our brave restoration forces lack medical supplies at the home front.
Are we still throwing big birthday bashes while our restoration forces lack basic communication equipment to maximize their efforts?
Are we still going on cruises and expensive vacations while our IDFs on the ground go without food and logistics?
Are we still finding excuses not to make the necessary sacrifices and drafting big while our restoration forces lack the game-changing equipment that they so desperately need to bleed the enemy?
On a daily basis, How much are we putting aside for our liberation, knowing that only through the fierce resistance are we going to liberate our beloved country?
Are we providing the federal government and the CIC the means to carry out some of the critical, intelligence, and other special operations across the national territory?
As we ponder these questions, we must remember that a goal that is not funded is nothing but a wish. And we must not let Amazonia die as a wish because we failed to fulfill our patriotic duties by making the great sacrifices befitting a great people.
The War Draft once more is coming to your county. Stand up and be counted. No greater victory was ever achieved than by greater sacrifices. We are enough, so let's draft, and draft until we drop. Our existence as a people depend on that.
It is Award 22. Let us draft until we drop.
We the people, ABC Amber TV, draft. Amazonia Broadcasting Corporation. The voice of the voiceless, the voice of Amazonia, connecting the world from Africa. With untold stories, Africa's best.
Yes, we are connecting the world from Africa with untold stories, the stories of Amazonia that the media chooses to say it waveringly over the spine, calls us Northwest and Southwest, and we say it's an insult to who we are as a people. Now we are getting into Ngooke Tunja. You know what, Dr. Mungwa, you have the floor. You can
Oh,
coordinate that.
yeah, thank you, Paddy. Dear Amazonians and citizens of Ngok. Saturday or this weekend is a great day for us. It is our draft day. And I am proud to tell you that as a citizen of Ngokitunjia, I will be present from the we uh, time whenever it starts and to make sure that I fully participate in the discussions that will be presented during this very important event. Um, it's been a year now since we had the last draft, and this time round, I really look forward to having our people come together and do something about Goktunja. We know the place of Goktunja in this revolution. We know the major, major achievements of the ARFs during this revolution has taken place in Goktunja. We know how strong our military is in Goktunja. We know that La Republique, they know that when they are coming through Goktunja, they know that anything can happen to them. And our valiant forces are capable, they are really capable to disrupt the advances of the military, La Republique military in Goktunja. So it is important for us, in order to save the lives of our brothers and sisters, in order to save the lives of fellow Amazonians, it is important for us to give them the tools that they need in order to defend themselves, in order to bring Amazonia to independence. So I am here to appeal to all friends of Amazonia, friends of Ngoktunja, and I believe there are a lot of them. Please come this weekend to make sure that it is a success. And I'm here to appeal to all of you that I'll be there. I'm going to make a statement. And so wait to hear me talk. I can assure you that you will not be disappointed. Once again, I look forward to meeting you this weekend for the Ngoki Tunja draft. Over to you.
Yes, Secretary Mungwa, you know, drafting for every other county is as important as drafting for one. But then, that's my opinion. I think Ngoke Tunjia draft is something that is Very, very important. It's very particular. We know what Ngokutunja has been able to deliver for Ambazonia and to Ambazonia. In fact, that stretch of the road, you have Ngokutunja, you have Bui, and we understand the reason why Cameroon is really critical on it. I'm not saying the other counties are not doing a great job, but you've seen Ngokutunja in recent times have raised great warriors like No Pity, like Sagon. I'm even told Sagon. Sagon doesn't like to come, but he does a lot. I'm saying most of the things others do take glory for are the things that he does. Now, what's the secret about Nkokitunja? You see the youths happen to have some particular courage. What's their secret? What can other counties emulate when it comes in terms of resource mobilization, cohesion between the local government and the federal government, connection between the diaspora and the home front? I think Gokitunja is doing a good job. What's the secret?
Well, I think part of the secret is environmental and historical. Um, and I don't think it's that different from many parts of Amazonia. But the unique environmental uh, condition that we have, the fact that we have a lake, 440 square kilometers, and the livelihood of 80 to 90% of people in Gokutunja is fishing. Um, People do not know the challenge to be a fisherman. I think ever since that dam, designed by the Germans, ignored by the British, and constructed by uh, after the Federation sort of abrogated, um, that had caused the lives of at least 1,000 Gogutunjians. People don't know this. That lake, it is not easy to do fishing on a lake. The winds, how to manipulate the canoes. So it means that in order to be a fisherman, you have to be a very brave person. Most of these La Republique soldiers, they put them on a canoe, they'll jump out, they'll jump into water out of fear. As a kid, I walked that line on foot, 1975, crossed it several times, and I also crossed it on a canoe. And there was a time when our canoe was shifted 10 miles off target at night. I could have died then, but I survived. So when you see these boys who work on these canoes, who do fishing as a living, they are very brave people because they've gone through a lot of
And
experience.
the kind of fish is the mbambalan fish that is done with
That's
food
correct,
like
but
that.
I
I'm
think
sure
every village, yes, that fish, yeah, they call it bambala fish. I don't know how the name came about, but I can assure you that every village in Gogutunja, they have access to that lake. It's not just for the
yeah.
Bambalan people.
No,
Okay, so
I'm
you
not
have to be.
interested. I'm not trying to contest with the different villages. I'm no Chairman Amos is now thinking perhaps I'm keeping aside Babisi. I'm interested in Bambalang fish,
Yes,
because that's a very special delicacy.
I
And
know.
I think that those are one of the things that we want to make some of us visit Ngokitunja this weekend. You have strategically explained to us in a stylistic manner why we have some hero and heroines from Ngokitunja, maybe because of the Sabgahi and a lot of things. And there's this mountain Cameroon is trying to break through, find on in all of the caves. Where is this man that is popping up on our gunships every day, and they happen not to find it. Now let's talk on something lastly, and then you will give a conclusive statement, which I'll encourage that you do
Let me just
in
add one thing. This at least
the-
in information. like they call
Yeah,
the
go
Bambara
ahead.
Marines. They call them Marines because of the lake. So they recognize the fact that they have a lot of experience in canoeing and doing all sorts of risky business in the waters, especially under high winds. So they're aware of it, and that's where they probably captured a lot of their bravery, and they can sort of deal with the La Republique talks in a way that many others might not. But I believe that's where that bravery comes from. Yeah, over to you.
Yeah, I think that we cannot conclude without talking on this pertinent issue. No doubt, I remember some months ago when the Coopers just started their chaos. There was a complaint that came in from about no pity, and you responded. What I got from your response is somebody with so much compassion and love for a younger brother. You call him a younger brother. It's somebody from your village, and there is no doubt that there is no pity and Sagon with other RFEs in Gokitunja are working at Verans. You're part of the officials of this county. Are we just going to draft money and start fighting among ourselves? We're going to draft you people moving towards, because as Amazonians, we need to always factor out a way of moving in spite of the challenges. Is there any framework to ensure that some order be on the ground?
I think we have made it very clear the position of the interim government as far as the association with the Unity Warriors is concerned. And we cannot back down on that principle. The least or the best we can do is to make it clear. And we really have to understand the intricacies in our time trying to deliver this message to the young men on the ground. Besides the fact that some have the free will to either accept or not accept. But I think in recent times, what happened to the Unity Warriors in Batibo was actually a lesson for our own ARFs. And I believe that a good number of them, from the information that I received from the home front, that the message went through. It is only through education and the free will of our RFs that we are going to overcome the challenge that lie ahead of us. And when we show good example of what we can do and the bad example of what has happened to others, we take the case of FM, FMA or Libielem. We take the case of what happened in Batibo. These are very glaring examples of the misfortune of our soldiers following the shadow of somebody who wants to take you to Yaoundé. This information is very clear. This information is available for everybody to see. And if after all that evidence, somebody still decides that I am going to go astray and join the Unity Warriors, there is, to be honest, very little we can do. The least we can do is to make sure they are properly armed, so when they turn against us, we will deal with them. It's the same message we sent, just like the current situation where they are trying to train fellow Amazonians to spy on us. So, what difference is it between somebody who's trying to spy on us and somebody who's from the Unity Warriors? They're all the same. So, ultimately, we just have to be ready to defend ourselves. But remember, this attitude is not new. In all revolutions, we've always had a breakaway faction be funded by the colonizers. We had it in South Africa through Chief Buthelezi. What was he saying? He was equally fighting for the independence of South Africa. But behind the scene, he was being funded by the apartheid government. We've seen that all over the place. Whether you go to South Sudan, you go to Eritrea, you always have it. So let's not be deceived. Let's not feel that we are a particularly corrupt people. No, that's the nature of the human condition. We just have to learn. we have to make sure that we understand the game that is being played and we should act accordingly. As we said, it doesn't matter whether this whoever comes to your village speaks your dialect. If he is one of those who've been sent by the Yaoundé regime to take intelligence and to bring people to kill you, he is just as bad as the Yaoundé regime. And if he does not recognize the importance of our independence, then he doesn't have the right to enjoy that independence. That is the long and short of it. And I would like all those in Ngok Tunjia to understand this. I have sent an audio message in my dialect to the people from my village, and I hope that those whom we have elected to be translating this information in the dialects to send out to our countrymen, they should do that as soon as possible. So they have to understand what is going on. And I think from that perspective, they are going to make the right decision. And I believe that moving forward, we are going to beat the enemy. Over to you.
Okay, we have the last caller here, uh, and is none other than Mayor Kare. Mayor Kare, I think you want to speak. The home front is getting you. I want to be sure that your sound is good. SOS is listening to you. Just go right ahead.
Thank you very much, Party King. I know I'm coming a little bit late to the party today due to unavoidable reasons. But I just coming to make an intervention for two quick topics. The first thing I want to thank you, Party King, for projecting DMC being Dunbar Mountain County last Saturday during our draft. We sincerely appreciate you and your staff. I also want to appreciate everyone who came to support DMC last week. We could not have done what we did because without you, $51,312. That was a mighty performance. And so for that we say sincere appreciation to all of you. And now we are inviting everyone to come this Saturday and accord in Gokutinja, the same kind of support, even more than that. The same kind of Amazonian support, probably double, triple, quadruple what we did in DMC. Why not? And so to our SOS Dr. Mongwa, I say thank you. I'll be in Gokutinja to support you. And you don't need to waste any money on a postage stamp for an invitation to Mayor Kari for that kind of event. And I also want to thank you for your outing today. And lastly, I want to comment very briefly on what one of the callers said. He was kind of expressing his discontent with the fact that the callers microphone in La Republic du Cameroon. Well, I want to assure that caller, my dear comrade, do not be worried about that. Let other people's opinion of us not become our identity. Let other people's opinion of us not become our identity. We know who we are. We don't depend on them to define who we are. And that's why we are in this fight. We are here to assert our identity. Freedom is not given anyone. We are going to snatch it by force and we are going to get it. That we can be reassured. And that's how you define your identity. That's how you assert who you are to anyone. And so I just wanted to say that in brief. I don't want to keep us here too long. I'm kind of a little bit late today, like I said before. Thank you very much, fellow Amazonians, for listening to me, and I sincerely wish us the very best. Short live the struggle, long live Amazonia. Bye for now.
Thank you very much, Mayor Kare. We've come to the final stage of this program. We've been live for more than 2 hours, close to 3 hours. And Dr. Mungwa, as you summarize to conclude, perhaps you want to talk to the people of Oketunja in the tone that they understand best.
Thank you, buddy. I hate to feel that, the Ngogatunja has so many dialects, and I think it would be a little bit unfair to me to speak in my own dialect. Uh, I don't want to give the impression that my dialect is superior to others. And having sent them a message early, I think about 30 minutes before I came on air, I would rather probably speak in a lingua franca to be all inclusive. So, dear people of Tunja, this now the time where they ever come for television for talk to Una about our revolution. I'll be so happy. Say most of the time when I can hear all Una, well, they can't listen to me. And as the days and the months that they pass, my popularity they grow because of the information where I they bring up from the interim government. Uh, I'll be very dedicated for this fight. This fight needs small one. And since next week, now this weekend we'll get the draft. And I really beg from all when I come on board so that we'll make this draft become a successful one. I want to thank all of them, and I want to tell them, I say, Bogitunja, one of the strongest, if not the strongest county in terms of our military for this revolution. So it's very important that we all come together to support our county. Now, if we get the money, we will help our civil forces to beat off this public progress. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Secretary Mungwa. Thank you very much for always creating this time to talk to Ambazonians. Ambazonians, you have been properly informed tonight on the pertinent issues plaguing our struggle and the way forward. Most importantly, this weekend is Ngo Ketunja. On Thursday, Undaunted will be hosting, I'm sure, me, Joe, and some officials of the Ngo Ketunja County. We hope to have them Thursday for an inclusive dialogue or communication or discussion with Undaunted Group. And on Saturday, we'll be having a very special pre-draft broadcast from Abuja. We hope to be able to highlight some of the things that have been done in Abuja around the South. What has Abuja done to Ambazonia? Why is Ambazonia a great nation today? So we will have to find out all of that. It's very important that we get to know all of that. On that note, Mr. King, I want to tell you good night and have a great